Um, I'm gonna try this thing. We'll see how it goes, but I'm just gonna basically talk over the VOD, and we can talk about some things that are happening. I think it's a little bit easier than trying to get everybody together for a VOD. So that's what we're gonna do. Please don't mind my horrendous cam settings, because I'm using a PC right now, so it's a little different. But all right, so we can talk about the overall start here. So you guys have a good copy of the May, the Pop Lucio, the Reaper as is suggested, as well as the Rhine Diva, which is good for spawn camping. The only differences here is Reaper would usually set up with his Rhine in this spot here, but they came out left side anyways. But so here is good. The whole point of spawn camping is just to burn the clock, so you're not going to be using ults here. So right here, our Baptiste should have been playing a little bit closer with his team. You ended up having to force lamp on yourself there. So far so good though. Good rotation from our supports. Unfortunately, our BAP gets hooked. So a big thing was that they kind of split you guys off here. So if we kind of back it up a little bit to where, actually I'm going to need to go just a little further back. So right there, our BAP was, I understand BAP is playing behind Rhine Shield, but when you're spawn camping, you're going to be playing, excuse me, this kind of corner here, mostly as a support, so you have angles from both sides, you can see what's going on. So the moment that your Rhine turned around, essentially you would kind of move forward and back yourself into like this little cubby spot here, at least for spawn camping, because then you're still cart, etc. But you guys did turn around for the hog, but unfortunately your BAP ended up paying for it. But again, whole point of spawn camping is just burning time, so it's not a big deal. But overall, good job for spawn camp. So hopefully at this point, you guys were acknowledging the Widow switch. So a big reason I kind of wanted to VOD this scrim in particular was to talk about some of the angles that the Widow plays and how you guys can kind of avoid that. As well as like also respecting Widow sightlines, because as I mentioned before, this is like a Widow's Paradise map, so there's a lot of straight lines. So your team is kind of split here. Some people go high ground. Your Ryan's kind of left with the BAP alone, so that's kind of your first mistake. Your BAP ends up getting picked off there. So I'm not sure what the call here was, if you guys were going to go high ground or not. I mean, high ground was kind of pointless, especially since Widow was not contesting this high ground, so there was no need to kind of rotate there. So a big thing here was just you guys were splitting, and it ended up just being your Ryan and your BAP. So just making sure that you guys are playing tightly together is a big thing here. So again, with the rotating high ground, Hog ends up getting your Lucio. So there, again, I'm not sure the reason why we are going on high ground. I'm not sure the thought process of that. Oh, I do see the Widow, so maybe that's why. I didn't see the Widow grapple. But either way, Ryan, you ended up leaving your Lucio, and he ended up getting hooked, which is a little bit unfortunate. But at this point, you guys are down so many, so it's just best to die on point. So, good wall here. Um, so some good ults. So again, we see the Widow sightline here. I don't know if, well, I guess I'll find out here in a second if the Widow actually gets some picks here. Let's just play through and see what happens. So collapsing on the Hog is good, and Bear and the Reaper pressuring the Widow to back up is good. Widow still has sightlines here though. Okay, we got the Widow with the Reaper ults. And Reaper there was just a little overextended. And I do remember, so after the Reaper ulted, Reaper you should have backed with your team. This is a problem. And I do remember this being called out. I do remember Scoots saying play cart, and only a few people, actually, let's just go back. So True's on cart here. So Reaper is a little overextended, but nobody's playing cart. Everybody pushed forward, and I don't know if that was because you guys were trying to get your Reaper out, but your Reaper was kind of too deep. So it's kind of just realizing when a teammate is too deep and there's really nothing you can do about that. You need to just back up. But when the call was made to play cart, absolutely somebody, at least one person, even the May, should have stayed on cart here because Lucio ended up backcapping, which is no good. So good lamp here by your back, keeping your heals up. Okay, so Widow's taking that top angle. Let me just get my camera situated here. Again, I apologize for the camera angles. I'm getting used to the PC. So we end up getting hooked here. So again, I believe this was a call that was made to just either die. A lot of you guys were just staggering in at this point. And I believe Sky staggers himself here. Yeah. Yeah, that was a hard stagger. So when that call was made to either just die and regroup, you need to make sure that you're just dying on point and regrouping. Because you guys still have not, since they capped first point, have not got a full regroup here, which is a little unfortunate. Okay, so some good spots you'll see Widow's play. You will see Widow play up here a lot. A lot of times Widow will play back here. So if you look at the sight lines, right, so if a Widow is playing this stairwell, she's going to have a whole field of view right here, okay? Where Alex is playing currently, he's got a lot of open space to work with. So your team, when you're coming up and you're pushing through this room, you're gonna play the top because the Widow can't see you from up there, or you can play where Chubb is, and the supports can play kind of like off angles here. Supports can play down here if this was the rotation you guys were making. I'm not sure if you guys get staggered here. They are pushed up quite a bit. So that was unfortunately a really good dragon. So again with ult management, so was it called that Hanzo had ults? Because even if it was in speculation that a Hanzo had ult, you wouldn't be staying in that area for too long. You would be making that fast rotation out in order for you guys to not be stuck in that little choke area. Tight corners and Hanzos don't go well. It's a good pick on the Widow. Fortunately, Sky gets picked off. So again, just staying in cart here. Okay. So Yeah, so I think a big problem here is it's just mainly not getting the regroups, which I think we talked about. There was a couple staggers, and then a little bit of lackluster ult management. Again, you know, Hanzo's putting in work, so acknowledging that he's probably building his ult the fastest out of the group. And I understand that Widow is a threat, but I think Widow only did 2 cleanup kills at the end of a fight, but hasn't actually put a lot of pressure on this point anyway. Specifically, it was mostly the Hanzo. So acknowledging that on certain points of the map, who is your biggest threat. And then obviously, which it was talked about a lot, was the Hog and making sure to keep tabs on Hog, as Hog was going for some cheeky flanks. So Flames, yeah, backing up. So you guys know that there's no recontest here. That should be apparent. So at this point, you guys shouldn't be pushed up here. I would have played back. I would have played corner. I would have played this choke area here. As you can see, you got Big O coming in, trying to push the team in. Push you into the team, sorry. So let's see how the Widow. So where's Flames? Flames is over here. Widow. So Widow drops down. Widow's playing again that main sight line. So I'm just gonna go. You know what? I'll actually go into the Widow POV here. So as you can see, this is what the Widow can see. So as you guys can see, like where the Mei is playing, that's a good spot. That whole wall essentially is going to be where you want to play as like a support to avoid the Widow. And you want to avoid playing in this room just for stagger reasons. I know I talk about a lot about cover and stuff, but if your team is backing and you get caught in this room, it could be an easy pick. So again, with the Widow sightline here, she's able to get picks, just free damage. So making sure that you're playing that corner and you're shielding that corner is very important. That's unfortunate. Hook bomb. So again, just watching those hooks, which is why another important thing, especially with Hog, is just kind of, with comms specifically, calling Hog no hook. And then we see Sig is out of position here. He's getting a lot of cheeky angles as well, so making sure that we're calling that because you can collapse on it. It kind of forces their team to play up. So again, acknowledging where the Widow is. The Widow doesn't have too many sight lines where he's playing right here, but he is looking to get a little bit closer. He's probably going to go for that corner back here. So let's see what happens. So it's a good window. Avoiding dragon is good. And we get some picks, unfortunately. Our Baptiste was playing a little too in the open here and ended up getting hooked. Oops, sorry. So you still have that Sig behind. So I see we have our Reiner, Lucio, and our Diva pushing the Hog, which he wouldn't be your priority here. You still have a Sigma in your back line that needs to be dealt with. And True freezes him and everything. True's like 1 HP. Still, once again, Sig is on point, no acknowledgement. That's a good 10 seconds of that Sig being there. So I would have collapsed on that Sig a lot sooner. I'm just gonna pause and readjust my camera angle here. What the hell? Sometimes replay clips make me laugh. So again, with support, dying kind of out in the open, you have a straight sight line here. The Hanzo is just peeking. So a big thing with supports is you're going to be like, if you're playing Baptiste, you guys are playing this kind of mid, you can play this back pillar here. I don't know if you guys can see my cursor, but you're going to be playing this like little pillar here and behind shield. And then as your team gets pushed back, if you guys are not able to actually fully engage, then you can play this back wall, the back left wall there. It's a good freeze to get them on point. Unfortunately, Lucio kind of sits in your back line for a bit. Lucio beats himself out. And then we're pushed up a little too much here. Hog ends up getting a little bit of value here. So now we know where the Widow is peeking, and I'll give you kind of like a little field of view. So again, acknowledging that that is all she can see from this angle, okay? So you're going to be playing either your right or left pillars. It's going to be your big... Can we get out of... Thank you. So the Baptiste essentially died just from jumping down and playing this main, because the Widow got a pick into him, some damage into him, and then it was just essentially whatever bursting was just coming through choke. So again, as Baptiste, you can play this corner or that where Sky's playing over there. Are good spots to kind of to chill out. I would definitely say around this spot, because not only does it block the Widow here, but if Widow does come up and grapple here, you can be the first to call it, and then hopefully get some dive onto the Widow. So we have Chubb flanking, and I don't know if that was a call. So you got Chubb on your Widow here. Chubb is still flanking. I only see Scoots on it. Good lamp. Good pick on the break. So that hog, the hog could be punished right side. Yep. Okay, collapse on it. How did the Widow get picks is the question here. So let's go into Link's field of view. Okay. Did you just get the one? Oh, you got flames, I believe. Okay. So, again, just playing the sightlines. I'm not sure about the Pharah switch. You guys were going against a Widow. I would not have switched Pharah for touch. You know, I would have switched to Tracer. Would probably be your best bet here, or even a McCree. And yeah, so a lot of it came down. The biggest reason I wanted to talk about this scrim specifically is not to just point out things, but also just positioning, because again, like I was saying with the Widow, positioning is super key in this map, and even as a tank, you still want to play your angles and your covers and your shield, you know, depending on what comp they're playing. If you're playing cover correctly, you should almost always have shield when you need it. So making sure that, you know, obviously we're not shield botting, but at the same time we need shield for certain, you know, especially with their Hanzo. So having those right moments and having the shield so that your DPS, you can enable your DPS to kind of peak as well. It's just another. So I think the attack was the biggest one, because this one we're going to really kind of break down some of the Widow spots here, and some positioning that as a team, or rotations you can make as a team to kind of avoid the Widow sightlines. So we'll get into that once the game starts here. I'm just going to let it play through. So at this point, hopefully everyone kind of acknowledged that Link's going to stay Widow. Again, this is a Widow map. So some really good points to remember is that, I mean, this is a standard for Widow, right? Widow usually plays like this top area here, but is also, depending on how risky the Widow wants to be, this is another spot that you're going to be expecting. So again, you guys made the right call. I believe you didn't come out main, which is good. And then obviously that back corner here, Widow likes to play a lot, or here. So acknowledging that those are the sight lines. And for this sightline specifically, as you can see, there's not a whole lot of cover. Rotating out left right for you guys, it's not the worst call, but then you're going to be playing cart quite a bit, and that's going to be essentially your cover, and you're going to acknowledge the Widow that's playing up top, and you can play that. You can also, once the cart pushes up a bit, you know, this room can become kind of a safe haven from Widow. This can be, but it's not like the best because it's too far of a rotation. But
3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming.
So I think coming out left side was great, and you guys acknowledge the hog, which is good. Hog ends up getting pushed back. So again with the Widow sightline, so Widow ended up getting a 3k simply because you guys played 100% just straight down from the Widow. So I understand that you're being pressured by the Reinhardt here and the hog that's flanking left side, but you can 100% play left side of cart, and you are essentially blocked from the Widow. If you're a support, you can play over here. I understand there's a hog here, so you're probably not playing here right away, but keeping tabs on that hog. And again, with a flyer hero, I know Sky, you have a limited hero pool, which I understand. But if I had to choose any of the heroes that you've played tonight to go against a Widow, it'd probably be a Sim, because flyer heroes with a Widow is just, it's not very good. It doesn't always work out. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but I would definitely avoid the Pharah and the Echo going against a Widow. So there are some like factors to break down, and I think a big thing that I talked about, as well as Alex and Chubb talked about, contesting the Widow can work, but it wouldn't be like my first priority. Essentially, if you play out of Widow sightlines, which I know sounds really hard on this map, but it isn't once you get kind of used to it and where Widow plays and what she can see, you start to acknowledge that it's actually best to deal with the front line than the Widow. You also have a Tifa, so once we get closer, I mean, I did see Bear put pressure on the Widow, so that was good. But essentially at this point, we just need to deal with the flanking hog, essentially. The hog needs to be punished. So the Reaper was a good choice for the hog. Scoots, I don't know if you play Anna, but Anna is really good against hog too with the nade, so he can't heal. Is also a really good pick. So again, a lot of you guys here are playing right side of cart. Try and play that left side of cart and back here, like where Scoots is. That's it's pretty much going to be your best spot against the Widow. And then we see Bear diving the Widow. He does get peel from his BAP. And good pick on the Sombra. So you have a Ryan here. Okay, Ryan gets punished. That's good at least. Probably not needed the shatter there for the Lucio. I know he was really annoying, but I would have 100% saved that ult. So helping to get True out. That's good. So we know here that there's going to be a couple spots that Widow's going to come from. She's either going to play this top, which is usually a good spot. Also over here, and as you can see, it goes so slow, I'm so sorry. As you can see, if a Widow's playing here, she's got a lot of places to work with. So as supports, you're 100% going to be playing this little spot here, or you can play back here and heal your team. You can rotate into this room, and you can play this room. If the Widow is up here. If the Widow comes down and plays this corner, which is also another popular spot, you have a little bit more cover, so you can play that left side of this wall, or again, you can play this area here. You can even play in the room, not this, but the other side of this room. And some good spots to play. So I have Window here, we know to kite it. We do get the Widow, which is good. We get the Lucio. So now we should be collapsing on the Hog. Okay, he gets out. So again here, the Hog is top priority. I understand that Ryan kind of pinned out of nowhere. You guys got the pick, but backing up and just collapsing on this Hog right now. He's super vulnerable. He's with the BAP. So again, right here, it really comes down to like target priority. The Hog should have been dealt with a lot faster, which means that your Rhine immediately should have been coming back. I noticed that the Reaper was on BAP, which is a good call. BAP, stay alive. So in a situation like that, just before the BAP came out, Hog was your priority. The moment that Hog kind of rotated here and BAP was here, you guys should have been collapsing on the BAP, and then I would have just left the Hog by himself, and you guys probably could have burned him down before anybody came back. And Widow took more of a flank angle here, so again, acknowledging how, like, where the Widow is at times, where she's rotating, and adjust accordingly. So obviously if the Widow's playing there, you're going to be playing this side of cart and avoiding her sight lines from you from there. Another thing, I'll pause it just in case Sky does watch this. I did write some things down and I can't find them. It's really funny. So some tips for Sombra that I was told to just kind of let you know was the fact that you were transing too far back, which essentially where you trans is very important. You don't want to trans like too far back for the sense that you're losing up time as Sombra. And Sombra, you know, you're going to play around the tanks because one good hack on anybody in the front line is going to do way more than you trying to hack, you know, a BAP or somebody in the back line that your team can't get value from because they're not, unless you're playing dive, right? So playing up a Sombra with your tanks, making sure that you're not transing too far back so that you can get back into the fight immediately, are some tips that I was given. But yeah, especially playing with the front line, playing with your tank, getting a hack on the tank, you know, the enemy tank or the enemy Hog. It's going to be a lot more beneficial than trying to just disrupt their back line. At least the way Sombra is played now. So here's good. We got Bear going up on the Widow. Or sorry, the BAP. So Bear does get the Widow. Good co here. So again, there's a couple things here. So we have Bear diving essentially alone. Sky does come and try and help. Does he get the hack on the hog? Doesn't. Okay. So I think right here it really comes down to just team play. So we had a lot of people coming over here and then some people pushing main. So just again with the playing as a team, playing tight as a team, it was just really important.
Personne n'échappe à mon regard.
Okay, we broke lamp really quickly. That's good. Good ults. Good shatter. Too many ults. I wouldn't have used EMP there. I would have saved EMP. And then good pick on the Widow. Yeah, the only thing I would have done differently there is just save EMP. I wouldn't have used EMP there. Okay, so we got Scoots on point. I probably would have saved bomb. So there's two things that were called here. There was Scoots telling us to push through window. It was a bad window and it should have been punished. So if you see a bad window, definitely push through it. Punish the mistake that the bat made. It's a horrible window. So when that call is made, just keep pushing forward. The hog is right side. So acknowledging the hog there. We also got a Hanzo there. Hog invest ult. So here, essentially just die in cart. So I'm not sure how Scoots died here. I'm just going to replay that real quick and we're going to go Scoots POV. Okay, so yeah. Let's see where you are here. So you're healing. So unfortunately, it was just too late of a rotate. You kind of lingered at this spot for a while. When you guys are fully backing out, don't even play this area because there's so much room for, you know, if the hog, especially the hog, wants to come, he could flank, hook you right here. If it's a full back out, just go right to spawn. It's just way better to not linger in that area, come right back to spawn to avoid staggers. Especially, you know, Hanzo's taking angles as well, so. So we get a regroup here. It's good. So collapsing on this hog, yep, pushing him. So I think a lot of that came down to ult tracking. Again, not sure if Ryan, you know, were acknowledging ults because the shatter could have been blocked 100% and you guys could have had more uptime. Again, I don't think Moira was the pick here just because of the amount of damage that they have and the amount of poke that they have. I definitely would have went BAP. And then you wouldn't have been playing against a lamp. It would have just been like lamp v lamp essentially. Which I find is always a better matchup than Moira with a lamp. D.Va gets staggered here. So again with the regroup, and this is a good example of why we do not regroup here. We regroup and spawn, especially when you're playing on a map that has way too many openings for DPS and flankers. So again, that's a prime example of just wait until everybody has spawned and then leave the spawn. Sometimes it's just better to spend that extra few seconds just to get a full regroup, and then you know somebody's not going to get picked off immediately, because the Hanzo should not have gotten your Moira there. Excuse me.
30 seconds remaining.
So again, your Moira gets picked off from a flanking hog, so acknowledging where that hog is. If I was you guys, I actually would have rotated far left, and I would have come up the stairs, and I would have put pressure up here, and then you're, you know, then you can drop on them. But yeah, it's just unfortunate that you're the hog flanking. So again, here it's like, you know, we're all tracking. We're staying at LOS of BAP.
10 seconds remaining.
Allow me to repair the damage.
Overtime.
Yeah, so so I think a big thing to learn from this map is just essentially understanding Widow sightlines, where Widow can play, where DPS can play, keeping track of flankers, so you guys know from the past maps that that hog specifically loves to flank. So acknowledging him and knowing where he is at all times, keeping count of the enemy team is always important. And then obviously the comp. The Reaper was good. The Diva was fine with the Rhine. I would have swapped the Sombra. I had already talked about the Sombra switch should have been made quite a bit earlier. And Sombra, again, when playing Sombra, you just play with your front line and you get hacks on the front line. And then I would have swapped the supports. I wouldn't have had a Moira. Moira, there's just too much damage. And then you're also going against like big ults that Lamp could have been needed for. So I would have swapped the heals for BAP. But other than that, I hope that everybody did learn something from this, picked up something from this, even just the scrim in general. I'm going to end it there and see how this goes. If you guys have any questions or anything, just let me know. And yeah, have a good day.